Aha! Here we are. So, joining me this morning is a man who graciously allows us to insult both his girth and his diet in the name of getting a cheap laugh. But when it comes to intricate audio editing, he really is the man who makes the magic happen. It's Ian Caldwell.
Gentlemen, we have a hangout.
And also joining me via the magical invocation of a low-budget early 80s fantasy epic, it's the man whose graphics pad stylus is mightier than a two-handed broadsword. It's Justin Wyatt.
Hog the Slayer!
Indeed.
I hate to point this out, but all broadswords are two-handed, Leo.
Joining me this morning, who graciously allows us to insult both his girth and his diet in the name of getting a cheap laugh. Somehow
Yes, that is the delay of the podcast going out live.
Right, I see. Okay, I did not know that would happen. So there we go. Right. Okay. Also a bit weird. Whose speaker is that coming out from? Epic. It's the man whose I don't understand. Where am I? Is it me? Is mine actually playing it somewhere? Indeed. I haven't got a tab open that would play it.
I'm watching Groundhog Day.
Justin, have you got any tabs open? I'm going to close all my... It's not me because I've got headphones, but I'm going to close all my other tabs.
Welcome to the genius of the live hangout experiment. That would happen. So there we go.
So how about...
That is a hitherto unimagined technical snap. There we go. We did all this testing. Can we hear ourselves coming back on feedback?
Just, and all who is it? That? Is it Justin? How about you, me, mute Leo? And if we're still hearing it, we know who it is.
Good idea. Let's try that. Where's the control room? I'm going to mute. Oh, right. There we go. Yes, that seems to have stopped the sound. I'm going to unmute Ian now. Hello, Ian.
Yes.
Are you there?
I'm fine, but it's definitely not me because I have Mr. Headphones on, and I don't. So...
right. There we go. Yes, we have found the source of the feedback, and it was Justin. Yes,
it's the man scowling in the corner.
Oh dear. Yes, Justin scowling away. So there we go. I was actually going to make a joke about two of these kids aren't like the others with the headphones thing, and I did notice I wasn't going to wear headphones myself. I didn't think it was a headphones kind of party, but I saw so many other people using headphones. I thought, I'm sure they're doing that for a reason, so I did. I didn't realise it would cause quite such an apocalypse. What I shall do. Therefore, after this is if Justin would like to say something, or if we ask, we shall have to refer to Justin, activate his microphone, and hopefully it won't feed back.
Well, I think he's still hearing the double input, but the way he's scowling, he's muted. You have to unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
No, I'm going to. It's Justin. Are we? Let's. I'm going to unmute his microphone. No, he's unmuting himself. Here we go. I saw so many other people using headphones. I thought, I'm sure they do. Oh, wow, that is impressive.
It's really distracting. Is there any other browser windows you can close, Justin?
No, it's probably not. It's probably just the speakers on his.
But he'd have to have an input anyway to hear what we're saying.
Yes, Justin has now become a default audience member. Because we didn't anticipate.
Justin, if you have any questions for us later in the Q&A, please write them down now.
Okay, so that's something that we can discuss afterwards. What's really weird is that when you're not hanging out on air, this doesn't happen. Good.
I'm not going crazy. I can actually hear you and split. Right. Okay.
Right. Good. What happened there? So how did that happen, Justin? What was going on?
Kind of row your boat thing. It was like a Groundhog Day thing where everything was being repeated and then added to. So basically, by the end, it was a cacophony of 20 versions of what was going on. That was really painful.
But the burning question is, how did you fix this?
I just pressed buttons and it seemed to work. So I don't know what was going on.
Right, so there we go. Right, so
your job working in a nuclear reactor again.
Oh,
so yeah. So yeah, those little foibles out of the way, I think we are now ready to sit down and talk about a topic. Now, of course, if anyone is about, which I could see there is one person who is about, then you may know us as the 80s Kids, and we do a podcast at Revenge of the 80s Kids, whereas 80skids.podomatic.com. That's where you can get the live archive of shows. We'll talk about that a bit more later. But we are now experimenting in the world of video podcasting.
Yes, now you can watch Google three portly white dudes from England talking on the internet. It's so exciting. You don't see this thing very often.
What's really interesting is that I think that this is a big thing. People are very excited about Google Hangouts, but as we have already demonstrated, I've done this before. I've actually practiced this to get to here. The technical snafu that we experience is another unexpected thing. So every time, just yes.
Clearly, I haven't done it before.
No, it's not your. It's not your fault, as Robin Williams would say, where this Goodwill Hunting. No, it's entirely the fact that you have to kind of check the audio setup. Then you can do like a private hangout, and it may not come up. It may not crop up, the fact of whatever happens. It seems as soon as you go live, they change the technical setup in some way, so that you end up with this like weird thing. So yeah, you have to practice it. So that's why we put this down as an experiment. I should probably mention at this point we've got a topic which we're going to talk about in just a moment for a bit, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's not a very big topic. It's not like we're going to do a whole year of films or something. It's just a little something. And if you are watching and you have a question to ask us, then you can type it into the Q&A app, which I am reassured by Google tutorial videos you will find on the left-hand side of your screen. About halfway down, there's a little blue box which says Q&A. You could type your question in there. They will stack up, and then we'll have a Q&A section later on if such arises. And if it doesn't, then it won't. So that's fine. But onto the topic. And I just thought we'd activate our irony drive here, in that for the first time, people will have an opportunity to see us doing the podcast live, as it were. So I thought we'd make the topic having big actors in animation films, because I always think it looks good on the poster, it sounds good in theory, but whenever I watch these animated films that have celebrity voices in them, I'm like, well, you may as well just got a good voice actor, really. There's no real reason to have Hugh Jackman voicing that chipmunk. That doesn't really come across for me. Maybe I'm alone in that. Ian, thoughts on this?
This has been passed over before in discussion. You would remember, because you weren't there. Together, Justin and I valiantly held the fort as we discussed plagiarism. And we're talking about the films that generally get a big star casting in are those that were getting out their film first to steal another film's thunder. Shark Tale being an example, which is loaded down with known stars in the film. And that was to try and steal the wind out from under Finding Nemo, as if that was going to be possible. So it is. I mean, let's face it. If we were doing animated feature, we would want to get a star. If we could get a star voice, we could, and they're amenable to it because for them it's only going to be like 2 or 3 days' work, hopefully, and so they can fit that in around their schedule wherever they can. You don't even have to have all your actors together in the same place. You just need to have a good director. So, yeah, I mean, it's understandable why they do it. Does it add anything to it? No. There's a huge pool of talented voice actors who are more than suitable for this. It's purely for the poster and some sort of magic. It doesn't really matter that the Iceman is voiced by Samuel L. Jackson in The Incredibles. Not at all. But it's kind of nice, isn't it?
I think you're right. I mean, sometimes it is kind of nice to... Sometimes it works, but actually I think more often than not it's completely irrelevant. Justin, you're into all the animation and stuff. How do you think that all works out from your point of view?
Sometimes it can be a distraction. I mean, some people are just better at it than others. I mean, you could argue that really Robin Williams completely makes the genie, and well, he is that you can't really imagine anyone else doing that, so it's very successful in that. But other times, I mean, if you're just talking about the heroic lead, I mean, do they need to be recognisable at all? Not really. I mean, I think some people are cast for their particular voice. So you might have a certain type of animal which would benefit someone's voice if it was particularly deep or kind of high or anything else like that. But yeah, just throwing in voices, famous people is a kind of a cheap shot, really.
Yeah, I mean, is the thing about it is, as I recall, and I'll defer to Justin on this one, isn't it true that the Robin Williams kind of did the performance for the genie because like they let him off the leash a bit to just do a bit of improvisation-y stuff, and then they kind of animated around the improvisation that he'd done.
Okay, completely. But then that's pretty common anyway, because they will shoot very often. They'll record the voices first, and then base the animation on the performances. And I don't mean the actors are acting, but they will look at their mannerisms. And obviously, being actors, they're not going to, when they're recording their voice, just stand there monotone and just be immobile. They will gesture and act, and they will generally incorporate that, certainly Disney does, into the final performance. So the voice is really important, and all of that is important. But yeah, certainly with the genie, yeah, they just let him kind of freewheel on that and animate the sequences that he ad-libbed.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, because the thing that popped into my head when I was discussing doing the topic earlier was Nicolas Cage does the voice of the father in The Croods, which was a surprisingly good movie. I was very happy with that movie. But did Nicolas Cage add anything to the performance? I mean, Nicolas Cage usually adds a little bit of Nicolas Cage-ness into anything that he does, and in that film, he really didn't, and that's where it kind of falls over. I think is when you've got someone, you've put them on the poster, they're part of the whole thing, and then you watch it, it's like, well, they may as well not have been there really. I think that's where it all falls over, and then you get the reverse of that, which is you get people who are particularly known for doing voices, like Seth MacFarlane, and obviously most of the cast, or what is it, Hank Azaria from The Simpsons, and Dan Castellaneta, both of whom do a ridiculous amount of voices, and you just feel that when people have got a talent for bringing character to a voice, that's what you should hire. Ian, you've been quiet for a while. What do you think of that?
Well, I think it's further evidence, if anyone needed, that Nicolas Cage will make any old crap into a movie. I mean, like I said, it's, for as far as the actors are concerned, it's a day of their life. And it's probably recorded, in LA, in one of the many studios available to them. So it's convenient for them. In fact, they don't even need to be in the same room as the director. The director can just video link to them and talk them through it if they absolutely have to. Some actors even have the appropriate equipment in their mansion, so they don't even have to leave home in order to deliver these lines. So it's enormously convenient for them, and most of these actors have a kid somewhere. I hear my voice galloping down on top of me again, I'm afraid. So it's very convenient for these actors. It's no hassle to them, but they have kids, and they don't mind making films for kids.
Sorry, I'll try and reduce your feed a little to stop the feeding back into your headphones. We don't want that. I mean, it's funny that you should say, because I mean, I never pictured, I'm pretty sure Nicolas Cage has never sleptwalked through a performance in his life. Like, he always brings his Nicolas Cage A game, even when he's doing, well, about 75% of the movies that he does. This is why we love him. The bees! But yeah, I can see that sometimes people are a bit lazy, and it is. I mean, I think what's come apparent to me, even in just talking about it, is that I know how hard it is to be a voice actor because we do skits for the regular podcast. So, that's I find doing the voices, it's like, oh yes, I'll do a funny voice, and then you go, oh, I should really have thought this funny voice through a little bit harder because it doesn't really sound all that different to me. So you default to 2 or 3 different funny voices. How do you find doing funny voices for the podcast, Justin?
Well, I suppose I draw on my experience of role playing, really. So, I wouldn't claim to be particularly an expert on such matters. So, I've been doing it kind of casually via kind of GMing for 30 odd years. So So I'm all for doing it. Whether how good I am is not it's not important. But I'll give it a go. It's all good fun.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Well, I guess actually, it is a weird thing to think that that kind of thing is a skill. So yeah, I think that kind of wraps up the topic. I'm going to open the Q&A app and see if we've got any questions.
I doubt
we
it.
haven't got any questions. This is
Well,
at the same
make
time.
up our own questions. We'll ask the questions we always wanted. We always wish people would ask. Ian, just how amazing are you in a scale of 1 to 10? Like that.
So yes, Ian, what is your infrequently asked question?
Well, that's I have to think about one way if you can ask question. How long does it take to put a podcast together? Really mundane questions like that. I was just going to say I have an example of exactly what you're talking about. When we did a Halloween episode, I was doing a Mad Professor thing at the beginning, and he's very highly strung and he's only seconds away from having some kind of outburst. But when I did the original take, I was actually kind of very evil. And it wasn't quite that voice, but it was a lot more kind of a big boss villain sort of voice. And I was just breaking down into lack of air and coughing fits. It's like, this is not sustainable for a 2-page monologue which on about the decline of supervillains in horror. But what question do I want? Do we have questions for each other instead of being self-service?
That was a pretty good for someone who didn't ask a question. You gave a bloody good answer to that question that you didn't ask. So yeah, I suppose actually questions for each other. Although we have now discovered that the person to go to for voice actor coaching or direction in the 80s Kids is Ian. So when me and Justin now are like, well, we've got this character we were playing a script, but I could do with some tips about how to craft that voice. I suppose it makes sense that the audio editor in the room would be the person to say, yes, that is distinctive. I
think there is a link here with animation because you're both dealing with a kind of exaggerated performance. I mean, the one thing you're not likely to get in animated films is a kind of dull, just regular thing, because the characters are alive and they're really, flamboyant generally. So when you're doing a voice of in a kind of skit or so, especially if you're playing for humour, then exaggeration is the way to go. Surely, I mean, you don't want to hold back.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I mean, well, the interesting thing was what Ian said to just now about the idea of bringing into just the voice, just the sound, never mind, makeup and hair and costumes and all that. Just the idea that in the way that you speak, you say, well, he's about this far from breaking down, and he actually did the vocal thing. I'm like, that's it. He's nailed that there. That's how you put together a voice characterization, is that you're not thinking about the visual aspect of it. You're just thinking about how does his personality express itself in his voice. And that's probably the key to doing it, which is something I suppose we shall have to learn when we go on to do longer audio dramas in the future of the podcast.
Secrets. Is it a secret? We never discussed it online on live UC before. Are plans for the future?
Well, is it a secret? Well, this is an exclusive. One person is watching right now and knows what we're planning for the future. They may never have listened to the podcast. So, who knows whether it's a secret, is an exclusive. If we tell someone a secret and they don't care or nobody else hears it, has it been blown? Is it about to find its way to the front of the Red Top?
It could be a bot. We just don't know.
Could it be? Is this something that you know that I don't? That a bot can register as a viewer? Is that true?
I've no idea why, but you could stick advertising in the chat section or something, couldn't you? I suppose. Click this link to find out how I made $600 a day working from home or something.
Well, yes, very good idea, but
I can't see who it is, so I can't see a number.
We don't really care who it is, but I can tell you the first experiment
we don't care
I did
who
with
our
this,
viewers are.
We had one viewer, and then it went, oh no, you haven't got one viewer anymore. They've gone. So it is possible to have 0 viewers. So thank you to our viewer. In the last one, they got bored and off they went. So we're at least captivating enough to keep one person sat there.
Each time we do this, and eventually we'll have almost 10 people, and it will be
So I think we could call the experiment at this point, and I think what we could call the experiment is, although not an unqualified success, certainly not an unqualified disaster.
I'm thinking we missed out a big trick, because that could have just been a casual person browsing Google Chats. We should have plugged our podcast up front. If they started listening to our podcast, our listenership would rise by 12%.
That is true. So yeah, but this isn't the end of this ephemeral thing, this live broadcast, because Google know that people have busy lives, and it's 10:30 on a Wednesday morning here in the UK, and 9:30 on a Wednesday night over there in Oz. In fact, we would be more likely to have an Australian audience for this than we would to have a UK audience for it. So there we are. But what I was going to say was it automatically archives all of these, so I'm going to check the archive, check that it's all suitable. I'm hoping that there's not... What I found, just to add an extra air of mystery and excitement to this whole process, is that the first one that I did, it sounded okay. It wasn't brilliant, but it sounded okay while we were doing it. I was thinking a viewer would have been able to follow along just about enough to get something out of it. Then I looked at the archived version on the YouTube channel, and it was terrible. So we still don't know if this is going to be suitable to be archived. But on the understanding it is, people can, not watch it for many, many years after this. It will exist as a testament to our technical shortcomings. But if people see this and then they want to hurry somewhere to tell us never to do it ever again and to hide our ugly faces in shame, Ian, where might such a person go to do something like that?
Well, one place you could go would be the comments section in Leo's YouTube page. But failing that, you could go to our Facebook page, which you can find on Facebook/Revenge of the 80s Kids. And that's 80s as in numbers, so 80s. Please go there and like our page. It is our community hub. We put links to our podcast there, as well as links we find interesting. But podcasts are what it's all about. Forget these Google Hangout nonsense. And for those who want to point your browser towards 80s Kids, and that's 80s as in letters, so EIGHDIES kids.podomat.com, please go there and subscribe to our podcast using the podcast aggregator of your choice, or download direct to your PC for dark reasons of your own. But this is only where our most recent podcasts can be found. For the legacy of our podcasts, you must go to...
that would be my site, which is leostableford.com, where you can find a full archive of all of our podcasts throughout history, and also you will be able to find articles and stuff like that, and other little videos and trinkets. It's getting quite full at the moment, so there's quite a lot to see. So come along and enjoy the cornucopia of stuffs that is available. It's only going to grow and get bigger. That's the warning that I have for you. But maybe, videos, audio, maybe that's not enough. Maybe you need something, sort of aesthetically pleasant, but maybe a little less mobile, that whines at you a little less. If people want to see a really nice drawing, Justin, where might they go to see that drawing?
Well, you can see examples of some of my sketches and professional work on my DeviantArt page, which is under Justin Wyatt at DeviantArt.com.
So there we go. So yes, if you have joined us, and I hope that it isn't a bot; it is a real person. They have enjoyed spending this brief but valuable time with us. Then you can come and listen to our podcast, and maybe one day, we're not promising that we will never do this again, even if there is a public outcry demanding such an event, or non-event, I don't know, however it is. But for now, from me, Leo, and from the other 80s kids, I'm going to say goodbye, and then awkwardly cut the camera to Ian to say...
farewell.
And then awkwardly cut the camera to Justin to say...
until next time, possibly.
Same bad time, same bad channel. Bye, everyone. Thanks.